Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to be looking at open chords. We're going to be looking at two things when we're looking at open chords. One is just learning to move between them as quickly and as good as you can. The next thing is understanding the theory behind open chords and why they're so prevalent, why everyone uses them, and how you can use them and understand them. So first thing is, when we're playing open chords, we're usually, not always, but we're usually playing in one of two key centers, and that is C major or G major. Now, for each one of those key centers, you're only going to have 6 main chords that get used, and you just use your alphabet. For example, in the key of C, you would have a C chord, a D minor chord, an E minor chord, an F major chord, a G major chord, and an A minor chord. They're your 6 chords. In the key of G, it's the same system, so major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, but now in the key of G. So G would be 1, which is G major, then you'd have A minor, B minor, C major, D major, and E minor. Okay, and that covers, you should recognize, pretty much the majority of open chords. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Knowing that, we're going to start looking at some open chords and talk about a few ways that you can kind of think about moving between them to make your movements easier, so that you're moving between open chords more easily. So let's take the key of C, which means we have chords C, D minor, E minor, F, G, and A minor. So I'm going to take chords 4, 1, 5, 6. So 4 would be C, D, E, F. 1 would be C. 5 would be G. So I'm thinking C, D, E, F, G. And chord 6 is A minor. First thing I want you to think about when you're trying to move between chords quickly is what's called pivot fingers. So basically, in your left hand, you don't want to move any finger that doesn't have to move. So if I'm playing F, which is first finger on the B string, second finger on the G, and third on the D, when I move to C, I don't want to move every finger and jump to C. All I want to do is move the fingers that have to move, which are just my third and my second finger. So I have my F, then I move my third and my second across to C. Okay, that's called pivot fingers. That's number 1. Number 2 is basically no one talks about this, but every guitarist does it, which is that when you're strumming, usually the last strum or the last 2 strums are actually completely non-chords. They're like transitional movements that get you to the next chord. And in context, you don't really hear it. So what you're not doing is waiting for that last strum and trying to move in that split second. That's not what anyone's doing. What you'll hear, and you'll hear it really obviously when I do it slowly, and less obviously when I speed it up, is that last up strum is actually a transition. So I keep my pivot finger on, but I move the fingers that are going to the next chord on that last strum. So my fingers are actually in the air in my left hand as I'm moving to land the next chord. So if I'm playing F, down, down, up, I'm actually off with my fingers there to land. So again, more in context, on, off, and that gets me to my landing spot easier when I'm moving between chords. And it's what every single guitarist does. It's not just the beginner way to do it, it's how everyone does it. If I play a little bit quicker, you just don't even hear it. Or that little bit of open adds some humanness to the playing, so it doesn't just sound like a robot that's moving. So last thing that I want you to think about when you're moving chords here is your right hand, your strumming hand. Okay, should never ever be robotic and stopping and starting and up, and down like this. Every single song, no matter how fast, what style, your right hand is basically a pendulum that just swings up and down, no matter what. The only thing that changes is whether you hit or you don't hit. Which is why it's so easy to tap along when we strum and tap our foot, because our foot is technically tapping every time my right hand is doing a down strum. Ba, ba, da, da. And if I add in other strums, it just sits into that motion. Even if it was all off beats, my hand is still swinging. And where that becomes really useful when you're playing songs is if you want to add in extra strums or makes a section build up more, you don't have to change your technique. The technique stays the same. So if I'm playing a normal rhythm, changing my rhythm, my right hand doesn't actually change. It stays consistent the whole time. Cool. So that's it for open chords. Thinking about pivot fingers, fingers that don't have to move. Secondly, you're thinking about taking your fingers off on that last strum. To land the next chord perfectly, rather than worrying about finishing the chord that you're playing perfectly with an up strum. That last up strum is actually kind of a nothing chord that lands. The next thing I want you to think about when you're practicing this is make up your own chord progressions in the key of C. So taking chords like C, D minor, E minor, F, G, and A minor, mixing them up into different progressions. So I might go 3, 4, 6, 5, which would be E minor. 4, which is F. 6, which is A minor. To G, which is 5. 3, or I might go 4, 5, 6. F, G. The only difference with that second key, which is the key center of G, is you would apply the same theory to all the chords in G, which are G, A minor, B minor, which is not necessarily an open chord, C major, D, and E minor. So you'd have chord G, A minor, B minor, which you can leave out for the moment, C, D, and E minor. Okay, and you can do the same thing. I'm going chord 1, which is G, D, which is chord 5, okay, E minor, which is chord 6, C, which is chord 4, A minor, chord 2, D, chord 5, and G. So you can muck around with it, come up with your own progressions using that system, picking out random chords, but thinking about changing between the chords using your pivot fingers, leaving your last stroke of the strumming pattern as a moment of transition. So fingers come off and then you land the next chord. Cool. Hope that helps. Easy. Thanks. See you guys.